I used to love driving alone. There was something calming about the hum of tires on asphalt, the endless ribbon of road stretching toward the horizon, the freedom of knowing you could go anywhere, stop anywhere, be anyone. After a rough year, my father's death, the collapse of a long-term relationship, the grinding monotony of work, I decided I needed a break. So I packed up my car, a beat-up silver Civic with more miles than sense, and headed west. Just me, the open road, and a loose plan: cut through Texas, cross New Mexico, hit Arizona, and maybe make it to the Grand Canyon if the car didn't give out first. I didn't know then that the trip would leave scars I'd carry for the rest of my life. The first 2 days were bliss: miles of highway, cheap motel beds, diners with greasy bacon and coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. I played music loud, sang until my throat hurt, stopped at roadside attractions just because. It wasn't until the third day, somewhere between Abilene and the desert, that things shifted. The gas stations grew farther apart, the roads emptied. I could drive for an hour without seeing another car. It felt like I had fallen out of the world, into some forgotten stretch of America where time didn't matter. And then, I saw the truck. It was a rusty old Ford, late 80s maybe, the kind that rattled when it hit a bump. Its paint was sun-faded to the color of dried blood. The first time it passed me, I didn't think much of it. But 20 miles later, I noticed it again, parked on the shoulder, engine idling, driver's silhouette unmoving behind the wheel. I passed it. 5 miles later, it was behind me again. At first I told myself it was coincidence. These roads were long, lonely. It wasn't unusual to see the same vehicles leapfrogging at different speeds. But each time I slowed, it slowed. Each time I sped up, it matched me. That's when the unease started crawling under my skin. I told myself not to panic. I'd pull into the next gas station, lose him in the crowd. But the next gas station was boarded up, long abandoned, windows smashed, sign rusted. The truck eased into the lot behind me anyway. I didn't stop. I kept driving. The sun dropped lower, the desert swallowing the light in shades of red and gold. My fuel gauge hovered just above empty. Panic started gnawing at my chest. Finally, a sign appeared. Gas 22 miles. Relief surged through me. I pressed harder on the pedal. The Civic groaned, the gauge needle trembling. And that's when the truck's headlights flared behind me. It wasn't subtle anymore. It swerved close, tailgating, bright stabbing into my rearview mirror. I clenched the wheel, sweat slicking my palms. "Leave me the hell alone," I muttered, but my voice shook. Then came the first hit. A gentle tap at first, bumper to bumper, enough to jolt me forward. My heart leapt. Another hit, harder this time, rattling the Civic like a tin can. I pressed the accelerator to the floor, engine screaming. The road blurred, but the truck stayed on me. By the time the gas station lights appeared in the distance, my whole body was trembling. The building looked half dead, but I didn't care. I swerved into the lot, brakes screeching. The truck slowed, then drove right past, disappearing into the night. I sat in the car, shaking, too afraid to breathe. The station was open, barely, a single fluorescent light buzzing overhead, flickering in and out. Inside, a heavy-set man with greasy hair rang up my gas with disinterest. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to say, "There's someone following me." He tried to run me off the road, but the words stuck in my throat. Because what if he didn't believe me? What if he called me paranoid? Or worse, what if he knew the guy in the truck? I paid, filled the tank, got back on the road, and that's when I saw the headlights again in the rearview mirror. He followed me for hours, sometimes close enough that I could see the cracked windshield and the dent in his hood, sometimes far back, just 2 tiny white dots in the mirror. Never passing, never leaving. I tried everything: exits, back roads, pulling into rest stops. Each time he returned. By midnight, my nerves were shredded. My body ached from gripping the wheel. My eyelids drooped, but fear kept me awake. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned off the highway, onto a narrow road that cut through scrubland and black rock. No lights, no towns, just darkness stretching forever. The truck followed. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because I was exhausted. Maybe because I was done running. But halfway down that road, I slammed the brakes, pulled to the shoulder, and got out. The night air was cold, dry, biting my skin. The desert stretched silent in every direction. The truck stopped 50 feet behind me, engine idling, headlights blinding. "What do you want?" I screamed, voice cracking. The driver's door creaked open. A figure stepped out, tall, broad, face hidden under the brim of a cap. He stood there, hands at his sides, just watching. I felt like a rabbit in the open, waiting for the hawk to strike. Then, slowly, he lifted something in his hand. Metal glinted in the headlights. I didn't wait to see more. I dove back into the Civic, slammed the locks and floored it. The truck roared after me. The chase felt endless, headlights in the mirror, the engine howling, my own breath ragged and wet. I took a curve too fast, gravel spat under the tires. The Civic skidded sideways, metal screaming as it spun into a ditch. Airbags exploded in my face. The world went white. My head cracked against something hard. For a moment everything went silent. When I came to, smoke filled the car. My body throbbed, ribs on fire, blood sticky in my hair. And through the shattered windshield, I saw headlights pulling up behind me. The truck. The driver got out again, this time closer. I could see his boots crunching gravel, his shadow spilling over the hood. I tried to move, but pain ripped through me. My leg was pinned under the dash. He circled the car slowly, dragging something along the metal, a crowbar, screeching with every step. When he reached the driver's side, he leaned down. For the first time I saw his face. Not angry, not wild, smiling. Like this was a game, like I was entertainment. He raised the crowbar. I don't remember screaming, but my throat still burns when I think about it. I woke up in a hospital 2 days later. A trucker had found me wandering the desert road at dawn, barefoot, bloodied, half-conscious. They said I must have crawled out of the car, stumbled for miles until I collapsed on the highway. My car was totaled. The truck was gone. No trace, no license plate, no fingerprints, just me, broken bones, a concussion, stitches across my face. When the police asked what happened, I told them everything. The tailing, the chase, the crash, the man with the crowbar. They exchanged looks, wrote things down, nodded politely. But in their eyes I saw it. Doubt. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I hit my head and dreamed it all up. Maybe exhaustion twisted the road into nightmares. But I know the truth. I still see that smile when I close my eyes. Still hear the screech of the crowbar against metal. And every time I drive now, even just to the grocery store, I check my mirrors 100 times, because I know he's still out there, somewhere. And next time, I might not crawl away. My name is Daniel Reeves, and for years I thought we had found the perfect house. It was in a quiet cul-de-sac in a suburb of Austin, Texas. A neat, safe neighborhood where kids rode their bikes on the street and families waved to one another while watering their lawns. After years of renting cramped apartments, my wife Janelia and I finally bought a place of our own. A single-story ranch-style home, white siding with blue shutters, a fenced yard, and enough space for our 2 kids, Mia and Noah, to grow up in. It felt like a dream, at least until Carl moved in next door. Carl was around 50, maybe older. He kept his hair shaved close to the scalp and always wore hooded sweatshirts no matter the temperature. He didn't wave like the others. He didn't make small talk. He'd just stand in his yard, arms folded, staring. The first time I noticed him was when I was raking leaves. I glanced up and there he was, across the property line, eyes fixed on me like I had wandered onto his land. I tried to be neighborly, lifting a hand. "Hey there." He didn't respond, just turned and walked into his house. I shrugged it off. Some people are private, no big deal. But the strangeness escalated. At night, our dog Bruno would bark at the fence, teeth bared at the dark yard next door. Sometimes, I'd hear footsteps on gravel long after midnight, pacing, stopping, pacing again. I'd peek through the blinds and see Carl standing in his driveway, hood up, looking straight at our house. Janelia grew uneasy. "Why does he keep watching?" she whispered one night as we pulled the curtains shut. "I don't know," I said, though my stomach tightened. "Just ignore him." But ignoring him became harder and harder. It began with small things. Our trash cans tipped over, lids flung open, tools missing from the shed, the motion light flickering on at 3 a.m., catching nothing but the outline of a hooded figure, vanishing behind the fence. One morning, Janelia found our mailbox stuffed with soggy newspapers. She pulled them out, shaking her head, and buried under the stack was a single Polaroid photo. It was of Mia, our 12-year-old, taken through her bedroom window. We called the police. They came, took our statement, and walked next door. Carl answered the door in his sweatshirt, calm as could be. They searched his place but found nothing. No camera, no Polaroids, no evidence. Without proof, there was nothing they could do. When they left, Carl stood at his porch, smirking at us. That smirk told me everything. I'm untouchable. From then on, we lived in fear. Mia didn't want to sleep in her room anymore. Noah, only 10, had nightmares of the hooded man breaking in. Janelia barely ate. I found myself checking the locks 3-4 times a night, pacing from window to window with a baseball bat in hand. Then came the notes. Slipped under the door, left on our porch, tucked under windshield wipers, always written in block letters. You don't know who I am. I could be inside already. Sleep tight. The police kept telling us the same thing. Keep records, install cameras, call us if he trespasses. So I bought cameras, every angle of the house covered. I thought at least then we'd have proof, but when I checked the footage the next morning, I froze, because there he was, at 2:37 a.m., standing inches from our back door, hood up, face hidden in shadow. Just standing, for 13 minutes, then walking away. The worst part? The timestamp said the alarm never went off. The motion sensor didn't trigger. Somehow, he knew exactly where to move to avoid detection until the very edge. When the officers came again, they reviewed the footage but shook their heads. He didn't enter the house. It's not illegal to stand on the property line. Call us if he breaks in. We were helpless. Weeks stretched into months. The fear ate at us. Mia stopped inviting friends over. Noah refused to play outside. Janelia cried in the bathroom when she thought I couldn't hear. I barely slept, haunted by the thought of waking up to find Carl inside, standing over us. Then one night, everything changed. At 4:12 a.m., the alarm blared. I bolted upright, grabbed the bat, and rushed into the living room. The front door was cracked open. I swear I had locked it. Janelia grabbed the kids and huddled in the bedroom as I crept through the house, heart hammering. Nothing looked disturbed, but I felt it, that heaviness, that sense of someone else's presence lingering. The police came again, searched the place, and found no signs of forced entry. Maybe you forgot to lock it, one officer said. I wanted to punch him. We knew better. Carl was inside. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the harassment stopped. No notes, no late-night footsteps, no Polaroids. Weeks went by in silence. Neighbors said Carl had left. His car was gone, curtains drawn. Some claimed he'd been evicted, others that he'd taken a job out of state. We should have felt relief, but I didn't. The quiet felt wrong, too calculated, like he wanted us to breathe easy, to let our guard down. And then, 2 weeks later, we found the crawl space. It started when Janelia asked me to move old paint cans in the basement. Behind the shelves, the drywall looked off, a seam that shouldn't have been there. I pressed my palm against it. The panel shifted, a hidden door. I grabbed a flashlight, pulled it open, and nearly gagged. The air inside was damp, sour, heavy with mildew, and something metallic. A crawl space stretched between our basement and the property line. The dirt floor was trampled flat with footprints. The wooden beams creaked as I crawled deeper. Janelia calling my name from behind, her voice trembling. And then my light landed on the wall. Polaroids, dozens of them, nailed in rows. Mia brushing her hair, Noah tying his sneakers, Janelia asleep on the couch, me at the kitchen sink, each taken through windows, doors, cracks, angles that could only be captured from inside. I dropped the flashlight. My hands shook so hard I almost couldn't pick it up again. Further down we found them. Ropes, duct tape, a black hoodie folded neatly, and scrawled across the wooden beam in thick black marker, over and over, was a single phrase, already inside. Janelia screamed. I grabbed her hand and we bolted upstairs, slamming the basement door shut, dragging furniture in front of it like children hiding from a monster. That night we packed bags and fled to a hotel. We never went back. The police came with a full investigative team. They photographed the crawl space, bagged the Polaroids, dusted for prints, but Carl was gone. No trace, no forwarding address, no record of where he'd gone. The official report listed it as evidence of trespassing and surveillance, but to us it was something else, a violation so deep it scarred us permanently. Mia still wakes screaming from nightmares. Noah sleeps with the lights on. Janelia jumps whenever she hears footsteps outside. And me, I can't close my eyes without seeing that wall of photos. The house sits empty now, for sale. People drive by, impressed by the quiet cul-de-sac, the neat lawns, the good price. They don't know the truth. Sometimes I want to warn them, to tell them about the crawl space, the Polaroids, the hooded man who stood in our yard night after night. But what good would it do? Because Carl is still out there. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that locks, cameras, alarms, none of it matters. If someone like him wants in, he'll find a way. And when I close my eyes at night, I still hear his voice in my head, scrawled across the beams in that black marker. Already inside. I used to think the ocean was peaceful. Now, every time I smell salt in the air, my stomach knots up. It was supposed to be a weekend escape. Just me, some fishing gear, and my 22-foot cuddy cabin boat, the Marlin. I'd bought her used, more fiberglass patchwork than showroom shine, but she floated, and the motor worked. Work had been grinding me down, and I needed out. Offshore fishing was my meditation. Cast a line, crack a beer, let the horizon remind me how small everything else was. That Saturday, the forecast was clear. Calm seas, light wind, perfect. I stocked the cooler, grabbed my tackle, and pushed off just after dawn. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. That was mistake number one. By late morning, I was 10 miles out, far enough that the shoreline was a hazy smudge behind me. I'd caught nothing but sunburn. That's when I saw the other boat. It was smaller than mine, maybe 16 feet, a center console skiff with faded blue paint. At first it looked like no one was aboard. It just drifted, engine off, rocking with the swells. I was about to turn away when a figure sat up, a man, maybe mid-40s, in a sun-bleached shirt. He waved, slow and deliberate. I waved back, courtesy of the sea. But instead of a friendly nod, he kept waving, arms stiff, back and forth, like a signal. Something in my gut tensed. I throttled closer, enough to shout across the water, "You okay out here?" The man didn't answer right away. He just stared, eyes hidden behind cheap-mirrored sunglasses. Then he smiled. "Engine trouble," he called back, voice flat. "Could use a hand." Nothing unusual. People broke down all the time. But his smile, it was too wide, stretched wrong, like a mask that didn't fit his face. I hesitated. The Marlin wasn't big, but I had a spare gas can, some tools, a radio. Helping was the right thing. Still, I kept a little distance as I idled closer. That's when I noticed there was no fishing gear on his boat, no cooler, no life jackets, no supplies at all. Just a man sitting in an empty skiff. "You got a radio?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "No." He tilted his head, like the question confused him. Then, out. The longer I looked, the stranger it felt. His skin was pale, lips cracked, like he'd been in the sun for days, but he didn't seem tired, just still. "Mind if I come aboard?" he asked suddenly. My stomach dropped. The way he said it, not desperate, not grateful, casual, like he already knew the answer. I forced a laugh. "Boat's not that big, man. Let me toss you a line, tow you in." His smile vanished. For the first time I saw his eyes behind the lenses, dark, cold. "No," he said flatly. "I'll come aboard." The tone in his voice flipped a switch in me. Every hair on my arm stood on end. "I think you'll be fine," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I'll call it in. Coast Guard'll get you." He reached down. When his hand came back up, it was holding a knife. Not a fishing knife, not a pocket blade. A long, serrated thing, stained near the hilt. My chest seized. "You're gonna let me on," he said, voice low. I gunned the throttle. The Marlin surged forward, wake rocking his skiff. His boat spun in the swell as he shouted something I couldn't hear, but I didn't look back. For 10 minutes I thought I was safe. My heart slowed, rationalizing. Crazy guy, probably dehydrated, maybe dangerous but stuck in a dead boat. I was faster. I was fine. Then I saw him again. The skiff wasn't where I left it. It was ahead of me, off to starboard, cutting across the water. The engine was running, strong. My hands froze on the wheel. He hadn't been stranded. He'd been waiting. The man stood at the console, knife still in hand, watching me close the distance. I veered away, throttle wide open. Salt spray blinded me, the motor screaming, but every time I changed course, his skiff adjusted, not chasing recklessly, anticipating, hurting me. Knew the currents, the shoals, the tricks of pursuit, and I was alone. I fumbled for the radio, static crackling. Mayday, mayday, vessel Marlin, being pursued. The transmission cut. Silence. I checked the unit. Perfectly fine. He was jamming me somehow. Or worse, the radio had never worked out here. He came at me head on. I swerved hard, but the skiff clipped my stern. The impact threw me against the console, ribs screaming. My tackle box spilled across the deck, hooks scattering like teeth. When I looked up, he was standing on the bow of his skiff, knife raised, ready to leap. I didn't think. I grabbed the gaff hook from the rod holder and swung it as he lunged. The metal slammed into his arm. He howled, knife clattering to the deck of my boat. For a second, victory surged through me. Then his other hand closed around my throat. We crashed onto the deck, grappling. His strength was unreal, fueled by something deeper than adrenaline. His face inches from mine, teeth bared, eyes lit with something savage. I clawed, kicked, slammed my elbow into his ribs. Nothing broke his grip. Spots danced in my vision. My lungs screamed. Desperate, I fumbled for anything. My hand closed around a loose lure, treble hooks digging into my palm. I drove it into his cheek. He roared, jerking back, blood spraying. His weight lifted just enough for me to shove him sideways. He stumbled toward the gunwale. I rammed my shoulder into him with everything I had. He went overboard. I collapsed on the deck, gasping, chest burning. The water churned where he fell. For a moment I expected him to surface, clamber back up with that same grin, but the ocean went still. Just ripples, then nothing. I waited. A minute, 2, 5. No head broke the surface. No hand clawed the rail. He was gone. I didn't relax until the shoreline appeared hours later. My body ached, knuckles shredded, throat bruised purple. I docked at the marina, half collapsing onto the pier. When the harbor master asked what happened, I told him I hit debris, cut myself in the crash. I don't know why I lied. Maybe because saying it out loud would make it real. That night, I lay in bed, rocking with phantom waves. Every creak of the house made me jolt awake, and when I finally slept, I dreamed of the ocean surface, smooth, glassy, then a hand breaking through, gripping the gunwale. I sold the Marlin 2 weeks later. Haven't been on the water since, but sometimes, late at night, I check the marine reports online, and every so often I see it, an unidentified skiff spotted offshore, faded blue paint, engine running, no one aboard. They always describe it the same way, just drifting, waiting,